Don't know me, forging and all the other wonderful metal arts out of my heart, and I tend, as you can see here, I have a little shop here behind me. You can just see the table classes, everything for most of the time. So what I'm going to do is unhook this laptop from just about everything and take you for a little wander around my shop so you can see what we do. I'm just going to go here. I have my kiln for metal clay, or if we do kiln-fired enameling, most of the time we do torch-fired here just because it's quick. They can make lunch. Most of them are with me for the full day. Keeps everybody out of mischief if we do that. So I try and keep it comfy. We've got coffee and tea and food and all that sort of goodie. I've got the variety that we've got. Plenty to keep me out of mischief. And then I have a couple of retail student table. So that works out nicely. A bit more retail. There's a hot station over there, and then just my little but it's perfect. And when you do find it fits me so perfectly and isn't too far from home. Alrighty, let's get ourselves. So today we are going to do what I call an inside-out pendant. And the idea, cheap and well priced as it is in America, so we tend to use a lot of copper here, especially in the beginner classes. But I do end up with a lot of copper scrap. A little pendant that's made out of scrap. And if you've got a piece of etched copper or something that's fun and interesting, grab that. I had a nice little 6mm piece of citrine here and a little, and we ended up with a nice little pendant that twists in and out as it goes through. So what we're going to do today is going on, and we'll go through the bits and pieces and get stuck into the project. All right, my friends, here we go. Guys, is that better? By drawing first with a scribe. So if you've got a nice sharp scribe like this, and you go around your edges with your scribe, you're going to leave a nice shiny line. So I do my line first and then just thread my stone through. And I'm going to use an 8mm hole for that because it seems to be a pretty good size. Down a wee titch. There we go. That's a little bit better, isn't it? For the hole, but it's like my 8mm on this angle. If you're doing riveting, these things punch the holes exactly the right size for you, which is just magic. Thumb that says if you find me doing pierce work with 18 gauge or 16 gauge. Crack, isn't it? Let me get a new blade. I've got one just around the back here. There it is. Okay, let's grab one of those. 4/aught blade. Or you don't use it very often. Your frame height until the bottom screw. Anything less than that you can get away with as long as you can problems. You'll have problems tight. Oh, blade butter. Your blade is completely vertical. That you've got your fingers nice and close for lots of support, and just hold that. If you keep your saw in one position and move your metal, gives you that. Tighten up our blade again. If you feel your blade fighting you and your metal is starting to warm up behind the blade, so really. But because we're using scrap, and you can go down as little as 20, but either way, as long as it'll do the job, you are good to go. Okay, take yourself a bat. Let's turn that round the other way. Bevel off those edges, anything that's going to catch. Nobody likes. Okay, so let's get that on. Lucky last. And I am going to swap to a half round needle file, so that I can get into that round edge. Not me. So I'm just going to put it on about a 45-degree angle and scooch around the outside. If you have a small sandpaper burr, you can do it with that too. You're using a new set of skills. Now remember, these sandpaper rolls don't like to go too fast. No more than 5,000 revs, guys. Otherwise they're going to start ripping themselves apart. You can whack your speed up with your silicone discs and your bristle discs, but with your sandpaper rolls, just go gently and slowly. No rush. We'll get there. As many points of contact between your hand and a hard surface as you can. I'm leaning on the nut here, I've got the hand and your arms from moving. The more control you have over your piece. This gives me this much movement, whereas if my hand was free, I could go on just because I'll go Burko with it. Okay, what did I do with that? There it is. I'm going to swap that one up to a 400 just to smooth it out a bit. As I said, the 180s, 220s, those guys are pretty rough. And if you have hand files and you're not using micromotor, which is so nice, it's on rings, medium solder. That's all I need today. And my soldering station. And we are going to solder this puppy down. So let's grab and I'm going to grab, don't need that anymore, some flux and close enough. I'm going to flux the back. There he goes. My good side. Where we want to line up. Almost. Et voila. Okay, so let's lift that puppy out the way. And I'm not doing the in Australia. Let's get that guy down. It doesn't have to be pushing hard. In fact, you don't want it to push hard because as the bezel cap starts to heat, the last thing you want is so much pressure that it caves the bezel cap in. But what you do want is if you touch the end of that wire, it does not. And I'm going to stick it on my small, suck that pallium through. Try to my wet solder the wire down. Okay. Nice. Remember to dry your stuff really well, guys. To water. Okay, let's have a look at how much wire. And I need a bit, which looks like 6. So now I've got to bring it up. And what do you reckon, guys? About there. Smallest peg to give it a little bit of a bend over and getting around while we. Let's see how we're going. Pretty tough. Zhuzhin and moving and zhuzhin and moving. It's all of the things happening here. Good. Shape. I'm going to swap to a thinner nose pair of pliers so I can get a wee bit closer in. Oh hell, the tiny little chain nose pliers. That down. I've got a nice 400 grit again. Oh, that's better, isn't it? Okay, now I can see what I'm doing too. And that you want to spread. Yeah, that'll do the trick, won't it? Okay, I'm going to give it a bit of a wang bang bang on the rest of it. Rather than a structural feature, so it is entirely up to you. Give it a little. That'll do, pig, that'll do. Let's see what we can. Put that guy there, and I'm going to sweat a little bit of solder onto the back of the. Et voila. Palliums, there we go. That's what I'm after. That little dude. One, but that'll hold nicely. So again, we're using little tiny palliums that are cord palliums. We can melt them down. Little bit of heat, hot, and don't pick it up with your fingers. Now I can get that bloke out the right up in that top corner to make sure that it's going to do exactly what I want it to do, which is flow. Plonk that on top, position them down here, get them nice and comfy. So I've got a good contact point. Bend them down a bit. This is the fun part, where you get to fiddle-faddle around until you get just the right angle. I want to keep that to a small area. I'm going to use my little torch again instead of my big guy. Black, but ooh, looks good. All right, so while that is pickling, I am going to. So we've got a nice clean, apart from that little bit there, which I'll file off later. silver and copper thing. Now what we've got to do now, of course, is set the stone. So I'm going to pop that out just a bit more so I can lean up against here and you can see what I'm doing. All right, I've got this beautiful bright blue chalcedony. There's a tiny little bit of grot in there. Let me just, that's 5 and 10. Let's get those guys all rolled up and over, and then you can just almost touching the stone. You want to get the bezel up and over there. No rattles, guys. And again, this is really, you don't need to push too hard. Really need to use an awful lot of force. We just need to direct that force well. Okie dokie. Now I've got the bezel up and over the stone. What I want to do is burnish around that edge of the stone, get down any tiny little bits that are left over, and I want to give it a really nice shine. So I'm going to plonk away my prong pusher and grab an agate burnisher. You're holding a potato peeler. So you can get a little bit, making it a wee bit stronger. It looks like it's come out of a really nice thing, guys. All right, no rattles, she's in. Let's take that angle a little bit. I still want to get that a wee bit sharper. It's funny how something can just bug you that little bit. Yes, no, maybe, yes. One a little bit. There, that's better. Now we've got it sitting nicely. What we're going to do now is patina him copper. And I've just drawn this slightly flared. I'm going to bring those sides down a little bit. I think and the trick. Ooh, and I might even put that up to a... Okay, how many of you reach for your foot pedal when you're going for your saw? Because that's exactly what I just did. A little bit more lube on there. Okay, over on the side there. And I really don't need anything else. Okay, let's put that away. That can go into the scrap. And these nail buffers are great. They're just a... Grab that off. You can tell that's a piece of scrap. And I reckon I'll just... Top angle is just a touch off, so I will... There. I don't know why I sounded so surprised then, as you've probably noticed. Make it look... So let's go up to 400. Again, we can thread a chain or a strand or something through it, no matter what you want to use. And then we're going to pull the tail up into a nice little curl, just like that, which will hold on to our pendant. But first and foremost, I have a little bit left over opposite side. All right, what I do want to do is make sure that those little legs are super straight. If they are super straight, then I use my mitre, plonk those puppies in there. Bear with me while I wriggle these into the right position. Doony doony. Just like that. In fact, they can probably come out a titch more. What your lowest part of the metal, can you see that there? Just sitting like that. So what I'm going to do now is plonk them here, go over it with my file. And didn't I tell you that mitre vise was going to be your best friend? There is nothing more annoying than faffing around with a third hand if you don't have to. Let's get that guy out. And now, if I have done my job correctly, there we go. And I'm going to put some flux on the... Let's get that light off. So maybe it's all... See what I'm doing? Yeah, that'll do. Makes it a wee bit to go across there, warm that very quickly into the quench and the pickle. Okie dokie. And here we have it. A nice, simple little bale that we'll roll the tail up and put on there. So what I'm going to do now is whiz over that quickly with a brass brush and clean it up. There's one there. If you're using one of these brass brushes, little bits of metal, and you really don't want those in your eyes, what I tend to do is aim it so that it's going over my shoulder, even though I'm wearing glasses, and up down my cloak, like the Midas Black, plonking that half jump ring that we soldered on. Little. Ta-da! Right. Virtually ever crafting color.